Well, hello again. It's time to answer another question from the website. This time, Wayne asked me to cover executive orders. So here we go, next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here once again with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution and we teach the rising generation to be free. Glad you could join me today. As always, head to the website constitutionstudy.com so you can find out what we're doing. You can ask questions. You can see where I'm going to be speaking. You can invite me to speak at one of your events. Most of all, you'll get information that we can share about the Constitution, what it actually says, try to understand what it actually means, and start a real discussion in this country about our rights, our liberties, and our freedoms. I want to thank everybody that helps share this information, put it out, whether it's through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. If you're sharing this, I thank you very much. If you're looking for other ways to help, keep a lookout. There's more information coming soon on the website about ways that you can help partner with what we're doing here and share this information. So with that, let's get into the discussion about executive orders. Now, to understand executive orders, we have to go way back to the beginning. No, not to our first president, George Washington, but all the way back to the Constitution itself. You see, Article 2, Section 1 reads, "The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America." The Constitution vests all executive power of the federal government in one person, the President. The legislative power is vested in a group, Congress. The judicial power is vested in both the Supreme and inferior courts, but the executive power is vested in one and only one person. Now, our founding fathers didn't expect one man to do everything they expected of the President, so they gave him the power to nominate and appoint officers of the central government. The President shall nominate and, bind with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and counsels, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. Now, if the power is vested in the President, but he is allowed to appoint other officers for positions in the executive branch, how does he tell them what he wants them to do? Remember, every person working in the executive branch does so in the name and under the authority of the President. Now, sure, he could just tell them what he wants them to do, but if you are an officer of government, would you trust the President not to change his mind and hang you out to dry if something went wrong? No, you're going to want policies and directives to be in writing, and you're going to want them published publicly. So today, we call these executive orders. Every president since George Washington has issued executive orders. Well, except for William Henry Harrison. He died just 1 month into office. He didn't have time to write executive orders. George Washington's first order was for the heads of the executive departments to submit reports about their operation, exercising his authority under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. The President may require the opinion in writing of the principal officers in each of the executive departments. So, an executive order is simply a formalized way of the President telling those in the executive agencies what to do. Think of them like a CEO issuing a memo to his staff. That means there are 3 very important things to remember about executive orders. First, executive orders are not law. People act like the President can create a law with a pen and a phone, but that is not true. A person cannot legally be arrested, charged, or convicted of violating an executive order because it's not a law. The worst that can happen to a person who violates an executive order, if we bothered following the law, is that they could get fired. Second, executive orders are not permanent. Since they are only the expression of a president's policy to the executive branch, they can be changed or revoked at any time and for any reason. Now, contrary to what the federal judiciary has done lately, the President does not need a reason or permission to revoke a previous executive order. In fact, other than issuing an opinion in a case involving an executive order, the court has no authority over executive orders at all. And lastly, since executive orders are not law, they are bound to the laws of the land, including the Constitution. See, if a president issues an executive order that violates the law or orders you to violate the law, it should be treated as null and void. If an executive order violates the supreme law of the land, the U.S. Constitution, then it is definitely null and void. This means that Congress, through their legislative power, can restrict the scope and power of executive orders in areas where Congress actually has authority, like how they spend money or rules for the military. So executive orders are nothing more than memos from the chief executive to his subordinates. Like any other memo, they are bound by the law and should be compared to it before implemented. So if executive orders have so little authority, why do they get so much attention nowadays? Because we stopped following the supreme law of the land decades ago. Congress has illegally delegated much of their lawmaking authority to the executive branch. This means that regulations which should have been passed through legislation can be promulgated based on an executive order. Just look at the Affordable Care Act. The Secretary of HHS is told they shall or can establish regulations over 300 times in just this one piece of legislation. And since the Secretary of HHS works for the President, he can issue an executive order directing them on the setting of those regulations. And before you think I'm just picking on one political party, the U.S. Patriot Act grants power to different executive agencies almost 200 times. So the root of the problem with executive orders lies not with the orders or with the President, but with the American people. See, we've hired representatives, men and women, who wield our power in our name. And we've allowed them to accumulate power in the hands of one person, the President. Then they act shocked, I say, when that person actually exercises that power. If we want to get executive orders under control, we must start by reining in our Congress. See, until we require them to do their jobs to get reelected, they will continue to pass the buck to an ever more dictatorial executive branch while patting themselves on the back for claiming they've done something. What they've done is sell the American people into serfdom and servitude. We should reward them properly with a pink slip. So what do you think? Did you get a better understanding of executive orders? Wayne, I hope this really answered your question. You see, the problem isn't with executive orders so much as with us and what we've allowed our representatives to do. If Congress passed laws rather than having the executive branch do it, executive orders would be pretty meaningless. And if they held accountable the executive branch when they took what laws they did right and went too far, well, we wouldn't have a problem then either. If Congress does not want the President to issue an executive order to spend money, all they have to do is write that into legislation and get it passed. But you see, nowadays we don't bother because we invested, not just Congress has invested so much power in the President, we the American people have as well. We even call him the most powerful man in the world. But he's not. The power resides in Congress, our representatives. And we are not holding them accountable. So I hope you found this interesting. I hope it made you think. That's a lot of what we're trying to do here. Please share this and other podcasts, other videos with people who have questions. It's often a great way to either start a conversation or maybe answer a question. If you have a question, head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Ask it there. Who knows, maybe another episode. And I'm trying to set up a system where I can actually answer these questions online, real time with you. That should be kind of interesting. That hopefully will be coming soon as well. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it made you think. I hope next time you hear a report about an executive order, you'll actually look at the executive order and see what is it really doing. Is it something that is within the scope of the executive? Is it something that Congress has illegally delegated to the executive? Get a better idea of what's really going on in our government. Because if not, our liberties will continue to be eroded and swept away. And this idea of self-government will be thought of as a bad idea and dumped in the ash bin of history. So I hope, again, I hope this made you think. I hope it made you interested enough to come back, because I'd like to see you again the next time on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday America.